What's up, everybody? Welcome back to 31 for 31. 2025 is behind us. 2026 is in front of us. And yeah, time's an illusion. The older you get, the faster this stuff just flies by. I never believed that as a kid. As an old man, I fully believe it now. 31 for 31. If you don't know, if you're new to the channel, first off, just let me say, hey, welcome to the channel. I hope you enjoyed this video. Check out some of my other videos. This is not going to be the best one. It's not going to be the best one. I got better stuff. Go check it out. Maybe like, subscribe, hype this video. If you're a returning viewer, I really appreciate you returning. And I hope you enjoy this video as well. 31 for 31. What is 31 for 31? Well, if you're a hoarder like me, you have too many movies. You own too much stuff. I am wickedly blurry right now. And I have a puppy in my face. Hi, buddy. I don't even know if I lean back if it's even visible. Is it? Is it? Maybe. I said maybe. If you don't know what 31 for 31 is, it's a series that I do on my channel every year, pretty much since I started, where as a hoarder like myself, I realize it keeps getting blurred out. It's too dark in here. I filmed in a very dark location. As a hoarder like myself, I buy way too many movies. I buy way too many things in general. I buy way too many movies, a bunch of which I end up never watching. And so the idea of 31 for 31 is to take all those movies I've never seen, put them in a list, let the RNG gods decide, hey, this is what you're watching for the next month or whatever, and burn through some of these movies. And what I do is every day through the month of December, I upload a movie review a day as I go through. And is that out of focus? I can't tell. My vision's bad. So because my vision's bad, I can't tell if it's out of focus or not. So you're just gonna have to deal with it because I don't care enough. I don't care enough to fix it. So what I typically do for this series is every day through the month of December, I upload a movie review of one of those movies. And instead this year, I decided not to do that. And instead, you're getting this video. And the reason why you're getting this video is, in all honesty, let's move you in a little bit closer here. We'll get a little close and personal here. The reason why you're getting this video instead of those is, one, I kind of hate how it takes up an entire month to do this video. You may be watching this. If you're a new time viewer, you're like, I don't know what you're yapping about. Get to the movie reviews, pony boy. But I wanted to make other videos in December. I didn't want to eat up an entire month doing this. And then on top of that is I genuinely for this year could not care less about 31 for 31. In all honesty, this year was a weird year for me because there's a lot going on this year. I mean, a lot in reflection. I joined a band. We're going to have the Dow's documentary finally out, my third feature film. I got to go work on another short film for Dylan. I got to do a lot of interesting things on and off throughout this year. But one thing I did was a lot of self-healing in a way. Where I kind of like figured out it's just squishing me. I kind of figured out like what some of my priorities are in a way. I don't know how to describe it. I slowed down tremendously on buying movies. I really don't buy very many movies at all anymore. And something I realized with this year's 31 for 31 when they got picked was there's a lot of movies in this set that are movies that I bought for really cheap that I didn't need to buy. While there are some movies here that I genuinely was interested in, there's a section of them that I feel like I bought them just because of how cheap I found them. And when I have a good stockpile of movies that are movies I really want to watch, when only a handful of those get picked for this series, I don't know, it kind of took me out of the mood, and it kind of made me be like, you know what I really want to do in 2026? I want to engage with things that matter to me and things that I really want to engage with. So instead of just watching whatever the newest movie is because it's new or whatever have you, or like going through this pile, I really, this year, 2026, I want to sit down and watch movies that I bought that I am really excited to watch. I want to play games that I'm really excited to play. Like I've spent at this point years collecting this media and not engaging with it. And instead now I feel burdened by the amount of that I have. And then on top of that is a lot of I interacted with. It's kind of overwhelming in a way. And from that aspect, I just could not care less about this year's 31 for 31. But I did watch them all. I got through it all. I grinded it out. I was putting in all my effort to make a video that was, try to make a high effort video. And in return, I've spent a week and a half re-recording things and re-redoing things, and I just was never happy. And a lot of that's because I just wasn't into it this year, man. I wasn't into it. There are some good movies here, and that's why I'm still making this video, because there are some movies here I truly want to recommend. But I think we're going to go through this list of movies. No particular order. It's not the order I watched them in. I'm not ranking them from my favorite to least favorite, although I will talk about some of my favorites in this list toward the end. I'll set those aside as some of my favorites, or at least, mention that or whatever. I don't know. Point I'm getting at is this year as a whole, I've kind of changed what I would consider as priority to me. And if you see flickering, I literally have the first movie we're going to talk about, The Swan Princess, running on my CRT TV right in front of me. So we have 34 movies. You're like, well, hold up now. I thought you said 31 for 31 movies, 31 days. I think there's only been 1 year in all these years I've been doing this that I've actually done 31 movies in 31 days. Anytime a sequel or a movie gets picked that I own the sequel to, I'm going to talk about that movie too. So this year, it's 34. It's not too bad. It's not as bad as it's been in the past, because I swear that 1 year, every trilogy I owned got picked. But this is the first year I threw VHS into the mix, and let's start off talking with The Swan Princess. Basically, this is Princess and the Frog. In all honesty, this feels very much like Princess and the Frog. A man and a girl are prince and princess. Their parents want them to wed. A wizard's like, nah, dude, I don't like it. I'm going to turn her into a swan. And the prince goes to save her. This is a VHS I found a while ago. In terms of VHS collecting, I've really narrowed down and become very picky on what I collect on VHS. Basically, horror, sci-fi, animation, that's it. And we're out. Been loving coming out into this room, turning on a VHS, turning on my little micro-sized, I say micro, it's like at least 2 feet tall, Christmas Story leg lamp, and just vibing with my chunky boy right here by me. As two chunky boys enjoying some VHS. My wife also comes out here and watches VHS movies. I figure I'd throw her out there because I'll feel excluded if it's just talking about you guys. What about me? I'm kidding. I love you, Autumn. Yeah, to me, not too bad. I definitely would have more nostalgia for it if I grew up with it. I didn't grow up with it. I grew up not with it. And because of that, I'm giving it a, you know what, for the sake of this video, ratings are arbitrary. I wouldn't recommend it necessarily, but it's not bad. I kind of wish I grew up with it instead of watching it as an adult. Next is Believer. Believer. Hi. This is a Korean remake of a Chinese movie called Drug War. Drug War is fantastic. It is better than this, but this isn't bad either. There's some really cool visuals. If you don't know what this is, it is a detective going undercover as a drug dealer to bust a giant drug ring that is happening in Korea. They're trying to find the big dealer, Mr. Lee. And one thing I really enjoyed about this is that there's some great moments of cinematography. There's some great style sprinkled throughout this that made it a lot of fun. Personally, if you're going to watch one or the other, I like Drug War more. Not bad. Not bad. Not bad. It's pretty fun. Pumpkinhead on DVD. I don't remember where I picked this up at. This is a movie I've wanted to see for a long time, and it was okay. First off, I just think this movie's creature effects are fantastic. The creature effects are great. This is a movie about the Pumpkinhead lore, if you will. Basically, a guy wants to enact revenge on this group of people, so he summons the Pumpkinhead, and then he kind of regrets doing it. And it, it kind of has some ties with him as well. Yeah, this is a decent creature feature that really just has great creature effects more than anything. Since it's on DVD, I watched it out here on the CRT TV, which was a fantastic experience. And overall, it was fun. It's one I would definitely watch again. It's going to be somewhere in the galaxy associated with my orbiting solar system of horror movies I watch every Halloween. It's not my all-time favorite, but I did enjoy it. We have The Woman in the Fifth. This is a movie I picked up at Dollar Tree. Kind of going back to that, I found these movies for next to nothing and just grabbed them. However, the surprise was when I booted this bad boy up, I saw hold on, how do you say his name? Let me look at it. Scanning, cannot find his ridiculous name. Paul Palikowski. I don't know, dude. He's the guy that did Ida in Cold War. Both those movies are fantastic. I'd highly recommend them. This is about Ethan Hawke, who's a writer who moves to Paris to be closer with his daughter. He has some issues, to say the least. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's a good little psychological thriller. Ethan Hawke is really good in it. My problem is I just didn't connect with it very much as a story overall because Ethan Hawke's character, in my opinion, is incredibly unlikable and very slimy. And I get that's kind of probably the point. Both Cold War and Ida are films that I think are fantastic. Ida, to me, is a masterpiece, 10 out of 10. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. This movie, I would sit very comfortably at like a 3 out of 5 for me, a 6 out of 10 if you will. I definitely would want to watch it on a second time. My problem with this movie is it has a twist to its ending that I kind of saw coming from a mile away, so it kind of took me out of the experience when it then actually happened. But on top of that is it's kind of one of those twists where it feels like it doesn't really make much sense once it happens, but maybe I missed something. I would definitely be willing to rewatch it. It's definitely not bad, but that's Woman in the Fifth. I'm sticking with a 6-ish out of 10. It also unfortunately does not look as good as Ida or Cold War in terms of cinematography. A little bit blander. Ooh, let's talk about a double feature. Laid to Rest and Chrome Skull Laid to Rest 2. These are movies that I've always wanted to see because I remember being in school and hearing people talk about Laid to Rest and it's like brutal kills and stuff like that. This feels like prototype Terrifier. If you've seen Terrifier 1, all of its flaws of the bad acting, bad writing, bad cinematography, did I say bad lighting? It's really, really bad lighting, but Terrifier makes up for it by having Art the Clown, that is an iconic villain, and makes up by having some amazing gore effects. Basically, same thing here, except for the killer is terrible. And it's in both movies, where Terrifier 2 in terms of quality is a gigantic jump from the first movie when it comes to lighting, cinematography. I don't know if I'd say performances, but kind of performances in a way. Yeah, Laid to Rest and Chrome Skull kind of has a lot of those same issues. Basically, Laid to Rest 1, a girl wakes up from a dead box that she keeps calling this coffin. She woke up in, she's got a touch of the amnesia, and she, gets help by this older man, his wife, another man that can use the interwebs, and Chrome Skull goes after him, and she kind of gets a lot of innocent people tangled up into this mess. It's not very good. It has a very, very unsatisfying finale to it. Chrome Skull himself is a very lame villain, in my opinion. Very, very lame. He's like a rich dude who does this for his kicks, or maybe it's a business. I feel like they kind of imply it's like a business in the second movie, which is really kind of stupid in a way. But yeah, that's the first movie. The second movie picks up right after the first movie, and something that I really love that the second movie does is it completely throws away the first movie instantly. Like, it basically undermines the first movie's ending within like seconds, and I found that to be really funny. Personally, I thought that was really funny. The first one was a major letdown. In terms of going into this year's 31 for 31, these were movies I genuinely was looking forward to and left very disappointed with because they're just very generic, low-budget slasher films that's only elevated by its gore effects, because the gore effects in here are pretty good. There's not very many clever kills or anything, but the gore is decent. The second one I think is better. I like the second one better than the first one because I like the detective angle to the story a little bit more. It kind of goes a little bit in the Saw-ish detective route a little bit, and there's also just more gore. I mean, it's on the same level as the first movie. All the lighting, acting, writing, all that kind of stuff that I said was a negative about the first movie applies to the second movie, but it's a little bit more of a engaging story, I guess. And the kills, there's just more of it. I would say they're on par with each other in terms of like the gore effects, but I would say just because there's more of it in Laid to Rest 2, it kind of enters in that popcorn territory a little bit more than the first movie did. All right. Rockadoodle, Don Bluth. It's a Don Bluth joint about Chanticleer, a rooster who gets thwarted by an owl. People realize, hey, he's a great big phony. His singing doesn't rise the sun. While in the meantime, there is a real life live action story being read to a child, and that family is in the middle of a gigantic storm. Well, the little boy gets turned into a cat by the owl, and they have to go get Chanticleer to defeat the owl. It is a musical that is a rockadoodle, if you will. Yeah, it's fun. It's not my favorite thing. I've seen it actually twice now because this was one of the first movies I watched in 31 for 31. To break the illusion, I don't watch in the order they're picked in hardly ever. I typically just whatever I'm in the mood for, I grab it until I get down to Slim Pickens. That order is mainly there to like register or like set up the review releases. And so I was surprised by, as time went on, as I was getting through these movies, how little I remembered of this. So I popped it on while I was doing other things, kind of turn it on the background, kind of hearing. And I liked it better on a second viewing, even though I wasn't like super duper focused in on it. I did like it more on a second viewing. It's a cute story. It's a cute bedtime story. I'm not changing my rating on Letterboxd from a 2.5 out of 5. I'm not changing it. I think I want to stick around that, but it's definitely a cute film that I will honestly probably watch again at some point. It's not bad. The music could be better, but the animation looks great. All right, more stuff. We got Rabid. This is by the Soska sisters, who I honestly haven't liked anything from them since American Mary, in all honesty. This is a remake of a David Cronenberg movie that I've never seen, but I definitely kind of want to. Very similar to The Substance. Basically, a fashion designer gets into a gross accident. A gruesome accident. It says it right here on the back. I read gruesome and I went gross. And then I said gross accident. Brains fire at 5%, or whatever Lucy said. I don't know. So she gets very disfigured from this car crash. So she goes to do a experimental reconstruction surgery that makes her look brand new, basically. And the downside is she gets an insatiable appetite for flesh, and the people that she feeds on turn rabid, thus the name. I personally just did not really get it. CM Punk's in this, by the way. CM Punk is in this. I just really couldn't get into this very much. It's a lot of similar things to The Substance, which I know this came out before The Substance, but to make that comparison is obviously there. There's like pseudo-zombieisms. My big problem is this film just lacks energy. I just kind of wish directors that had more flair, more energy, more passion, more energy, more passion kind of got a hold of this one, because the Soska sisters, in my opinion, feel very sterile when it comes to their direction, which I think lent very well to American Mary, but undermines pretty much everything else I've seen by them. They just don't have that frantic energy to add to the scenes that it calls for. I mean, I feel like these moments should have been more rabid, and they just weren't. As a whole, I don't think it's bad. It was watchable. It's not my favorite thing. I definitely, toward the back end of it, I was ready for it to wrap up. The gore is there. The blood is there. I just wish there was more life to the film overall. It feels very lifeless, and for that reason, it's a no for me. I do want to see the David Cronenberg one, though. God's Pocket, starring Philip Seymour Hoffman, John Turturro, Richard Jenkins, Christina Hendricks. All kinds of people are in this. This is a film about God's Pocket, a little spot in, I believe, New York. It's kind of just a knit community, a tight-knit community, where the daughter of Christina Hendricks, the son of Christina Hendricks, dies by not quite the accident that the cover story is. And Philip Seymour Hoffman is married to her. It's not his kid and stepson, but he's married to her. So he's trying to get things settled for the funeral. But in the meantime, him and John Turturro are kind of involved in shady business, and he wants him to find out what happened to the boy. As you bounce around through all these different characters within this community, it builds a natural sense of community between these characters, and everybody here is fantastic. On the back end of that, Richard Jenkins' character is a writer who is writing a story on God's Pocket, because basically kind of going over the young boy who died, which is played by Caleb Landry Jones, which is Christina Hendricks' boy. The whole thing was, with this movie, I really was into it for like the first 45 minutes or so. And then the film really kind of meanders until the back end. There's an affair that's kind of thrown in that I just wasn't really into. There's like a couple little gags that I just made the film really drag out with this pacing. Overall, though, I do think this is a decent film. It's well shot. The performances are fantastic. I liked it overall. It's one of Philip Seymour Hoffman's last performance before he died. He just such a good actor. It sucks that he went so soon. But as a whole, it is a little bit more on the forgettable side, but it is worth a watch. So that's God's Pocket. This is, I think, in the movies I've went through so far, I would give a recommendation on some hesitancy. There are people I know in my life that would not like the vibe and tone of this movie because it is a slower paced movie. There are people that I know in my circle that would love this movie. Yeah, if you basically, actually the back of this says, crafted with great skill, Slattery expertly navigates Coen Brothers terrain. This feels like a very dry Coen Brothers movie. So, there's that. God's Pocket. Kaena, I can't remember how you say her name. They said it in a weird way. Kaena the Prophecy. This is a movie I found at a pawn shop that I had never heard of, and I am a sucker for weird animated movies. Always have been, always will be. And that is what this is. If you were a kid back in the PS2 days and you went, these cutscenes look fantastic, I wish I'd make a whole movie out of them. Got it for you. It's right here. Without a doubt, the visuals are very interesting, but very ugly. The animation's very ugly. Everything's very beige. It is about a girl who lives in a tribe. It's a very complex setup where there was like these aliens that were, how do I even explain this? Basically, there are these creatures that live on this planet that like attack these aliens, and in the attack there's this giant tree that sprouted, and Kiana and her family live in that tree, and their gods are the people that did the attack on the spaceship, but they have like a prophet set up who's all their like figurehead. Kiana is kind of a little bit rebellious. Well, she gets exiled and she comes across the alien who's still alive, and they basically try to right the wrongs of everything that happened. It's very, very convoluted, and it is told in a very convoluted way. There's a bunch of stuff that they do not take the time to explore because it's a 90-minute movie and it will go by quick. However, I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with this movie. I don't think it's a good movie by any means. It's a little bit too conceptual for its time. But as a whole, I did find myself having a lot of fun with this because it kind of sits in that weird level of fantasy and weird level of like horrific animation that it just becomes a really fascinating watch, and I 100% would watch this again. Not necessarily something I would super duper recommend, but it is something that I do think is probably honestly worth checking out, and one that I would watch again myself. So that is Kaena the Prophecy, a weird little animated, not quite a hidden gem, but definitely a stone underneath the ground. I, Tanya, this is probably, I'm not quite sure I would give this a straight up recommendation. I'm giving this one a 3.5 out of 5. First off, Margot Robbie is great in it. Sebastian Stan's great in it. Paul Walsh, underrated, most actor of Hollywood, in my opinion. I love that dude. He's great in this too. He's really funny. But basically, this is a dramatization of Tonya Harding's story. If you don't know what Tonya Harding's story is, she is a figure skater that got wrapped up in scandal at the Olympics. Was it the Olympics or was it a qualifier? I'm pretty sure it's the Olympics. When she basically orders a pseudo, not quite hit, but hurt the other figure skater kind of thing. It's a pretty interesting story. Overall, it's pretty good. It's a decent little biography movie. It tries a little too hard to be funny. It tries a little too hard to be certified fresh. But overall, it's not bad. It's a performance driven movie. It's a performance vehicle, and for that aspect, it's pretty good. And as a whole, it's a pretty enjoyable movie. Like it's decently well made. I'm never gonna watch it again though. Up next, Upside Down with Jim Sturgis and Kristen Dunst. This is a movie about two worlds that run parallel to each other. One world is literally on top of the other, and obviously the upper world is higher class than the lower world. However, there's a little bit of a Romeo-Juliet story going on here, as both of them are in love with each other. There's a whole set of rules to this movie that are real wonky, potentially need a little bit more fleshed out, but where this movie excels is the visuals. I think the visuals in this movie are absolutely fantastic. You know what I absolutely love? I love having to switch out a battery, go into recording, and then not actually record anything. Also, not be on camera because I got to pick up the movie I threw down. Where was I at with Upside Down? Yeah, it's a good visual movie. A lot of great visuals. That's why it's worth recommending to watch. The love plot is pretty generic, but in terms of like a visual movie, it's totally worth a watch. That's Upside Down. Watch it for the visuals. Tarantula. on VHS. This is I bought this brand new, a sealed VHS in 2025, and I opened it. I opened a sealed VHS in 2025. In the year of 2025, I went into a store. I bought for a couple dollars a sealed VHS. I opened it and I watched it. And it still has the freaking reply mail. Nobody cares. Anyway, Tarantula is a monster movie from the 50s, 60s. When did it say this was? It doesn't? That's cool. 1955. This is a monster movie from 1955 where a scientist is trying to develop a formula to where it can replace human food, and people can just take the formula. However, it basically makes things grow at an incredibly rapid pace. Kills humans, by the way, so it really doesn't work very well. But it turns one of the spiders that escapes into a ginormous tarantula that destroys and eats everything. Now, if you watch these movies, if you're like me, you watch these for the monsters. You're in for the monsters. You're here for the monsters. You want to see the monsters. Traditional monster movie fashion only shows you the monster in the last 30 minutes of the movie. However, what I was not expecting was I really enjoyed the human subplot. Typically that stuff is just throwaway, but I actually found the science mumbo jumbo, the threat of what the science is potentially going to do or could do, mixed with the kind of love plot between the main character and the woman, to actually be really good. It's actually a really solid story. And then you throw in the giant tarantula, and it's just a lot of fun. This movie's a ton of fun. In terms of retro monster movies, I feel like this one should be talked about more, in all honesty. I had a ton of fun with this one. I think the visual effects actually hold up pretty well considering this is from the 50s. I think that's really surprising. Or at least to me, it's really surprising. And yeah, it's worth a watch. It's pretty good. I really enjoyed Tarantula. I could definitely see myself watching this one again. In terms of the older monster movies, I had a ton of fun with it. Upstream Color. This is a film by Shane Carruth. It's the only film of his I've seen. I've not seen Primer yet. I do want to see Primer. And I grabbed this one. I don't remember where I got it from. I got it a while ago. My buddy Austin said it was really good. So I checked it out, and I liked it. It's I think I said something about something being convoluted. Oh yeah, Can of the Prophecy. If you think that movie is convoluted, no. In all honesty, this movie is, I think, pretty straightforward overall, but it's one of those films that's left open to interpretation. Basically, a woman, how would I explain Upstream Color? Basically, a woman meets how do I think about Upstream Color? How do I present this? A thief takes a woman, gives her these worms that basically allows him to, sedates her enough to basically allow him to steal everything from her. She wakes up with scars and stuff because a pig farmer found her, takes some of the worms, puts them in his pig. She wakes up with these scars. Time goes by. She meets another man with the same scars, and they try to figure out what's going on. All in the meantime running parallel with the pig farmer and his pigs, as one story represents the other. I think the main plot, at least to me, is about moving over grief of loss of a child, and that's, to me at least, represented by the pig farmer's side of the story, and how to move on to that, and how I guess you could feel lesser than when something like that happens, in a way. It's one of them that's definitely open to interpretation, and I would definitely watch it. Sorry, I'm watching The Swan Princess right now instead of thinking about this. It's definitely one that I think on a second watch I would get more out of it, and I would be willing to give it a second watch. The thing that really surprised me is I think this movie looks great visually, and it was shot on a GH2, so that's really cool. I love seeing low budget movies do things very effectively within its own visual range for its budgetary restrictions. There's a lot of high science fiction, or at least a lot of high concepts here that the film gets away with within its own small budget to make it feel much larger in scale. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought the performances were pretty good. I guess Shane Carruth plays the guy in it, and I believe the girl was his real life girlfriend, who I believe came out later that he was super abusive to her. I don't know the full story. I'm not getting the full story. It is what it is. I'm separating art from the artist, and what I see here I really enjoyed. I liked the conclusion of the film that I don't want to spoil for you, but it's one of them that feels very visually metaphorical, and from that aspect, if those kind of movies to me are a lot of fun to pick apart on a second viewing. On the first viewing, I like to watch a movie at just like whole value. Like, yeah, I'll dig a little bit while I'm watching and stuff, but I typically like to just see what the experience is. And if there's something I think is worth chewing on, I would definitely like to go back and rewatch it. And that's how I feel about Upstream Color. I feel very, well, let's talk about that. I felt very foolish. The Water Horse. It's the tale of Loch Ness Monster, where a little boy finds an egg that turns into a water horse, all in the meantime trying to keep it under wraps while his mom's inn is being occupied by the military forces. It's okay. It's okay. It's a fun little storybook movie that is family friendly, that could be a fun Thursday night watch with the kids that you'll never think about again the rest of your life. That's The Water Horse. It's not bad, but it does nothing to stand out. Oh, ISS. This is a movie that I heard a lot of bad things about, a movie that I've not heard really anything good about, but on premise alone I was very interested in, and after watching it I have to say I'm a little butthurt about this one. The first act of this movie is spectacular. The first act of this movie is great. It sets up the characters very nicely. You get enough lore about each character that you understand who they are a little bit. You kind of understand the dynamic on the space station, and then all hits the fan when they see a bunch of explosions on Earth, and you're like, oh, this is getting good. This is getting real good. And then we move on to basically on the International Space Station, there's the Asians. There's the Russians and the Americans, which if you combine the two, Asians. And, you know, the war breaks out on Earth between Russia and America. Their retrospective countries, America and Russia, say, hey, you need to take the International Space Station by all means necessary. And I do mean all means necessary. I was really vibing with this movie. I was really into it for the first act. And then it just kind of takes a nosedive into like soaperiatic levels of drama, characters doing dumb things for plot conveniences. Plot conveniences out the wazoo. At least to me, a lot of like little fake outs that were very obviously, you could tell from a mile away that these things are going to happen. These characters feel like they make pretty irrational decisions only to do, basically it's like, I have this idea, but I need to get to this point of the story for that idea. I'll just have the character do it so we get to it. Like, that's what it feels like these characters are doing in terms of doing things that just feel irrational. I'm really disappointed in ISS, and I hate how predictable it ended up becoming as the movie went along. It started off, I'm not kidding you, like it started off really high and then it just gradually went down as it went along. Yeah, I mean, I get it. I guess I get why people don't like it very much. The end of Meat. I'm going to read the back of this, and then I'm going to talk about it, okay? In The End of Meat, filmmaker Mark Pierschel embarks on a journey to discover what effect a post-meat world would have on the environment, the animals, and ourselves. He meets Esther the Wonder Pig, who becomes an internet phenomenon, talks to pioneers leading the vegan movement in Germany, visits the first fully vegetarian city in India, witnesses rescue farmed animals enjoying their newly found freedom, observes the future food innovators making meat and dairy without the animals, even harvesting bacon from the ocean, and much more. Between that synopsis, the artwork on this, and the artwork on the back, I kind of expected this documentary to explore more of meat alternatives or meat replacements and kind of the science behind it. We could move from an industry of meat to a non-meat industry, non-meat world, and how the kind of science would be behind that, how this synthetic meat is made, and kind of explore those regions. Instead, I got an entire documentary of, I used to eat meat and then I petted an animal and now I don't eat meat no more. And that became really annoying very quickly. This is kind of the same testimonial story, rinse and repeated a bunch, with interesting little side tangents into what I think the synopsis actually is. I think one of my big problems is like the Esther the Pig moment. You can kind of tell by reading the back of it. A lot of this movie feels very much stitched together. Like there's a bunch of short films kind of stitched together to make a feature-length adventure. When I signed up to get this, for one, is at Dollar Tree. It's a low barrier barrier to entry. You ever just say things backwards? I don't know. I kind of expected this documentary to go somewhere else than what I ended up getting. And what I ended up getting, I thought was really boring. I eat meat. I don't care if you don't eat meat. I think the presentation of what world would look like if we moved away from meat, the science behind it, the science behind creating alternative meat substitutes, I think all that seems really interesting. And I didn't really get that. So I didn't really like it. The Bugs Bunny Roadrunner movie. This is just a collection of classic Looney Tunes skits. Roadrunner doesn't show up till like the tail end of the movie. Yeah, I mean, as a compilation of some good Looney Tunes skits, it's cool. Like, it has Duck Dodgers, Martian Man, what's his name? Is it Martian Manhunter? The Martian, basically. It has that's one of the first skits of it. Has the It's Wabbit Hunting Season skit. Has some good Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner moments at the back end of it. But yeah, just as a whole, it's a decent little Looney Tunes compilation, but it's nothing like spectacular. We got the French Connection 1 and 2. This was another combo wombo. Funny enough, the French Connection 2 I found at Dollar Tree. French Connection 1, this is a film by William Friedkin, a director who I have been discovering more of that I personally really enjoy. I think he's a fantastic director from what I've seen so far by him. And the French Connection is probably, I liked it better, I think, than Killer Joe. I would like to rewatch Killer Joe. I did not like it as much as Sorcerer, and I did not like it as much as The Exorcist. Still good, though. Basically a detective trying to get a drug dealer. Him and, what's the guy's name that plays Roy Scheider? Roy Scheider. The guy's in Jaws, the guy that was in Sorcerer. He's also in this. Gene Hackman plays Popeye, the detective. It's really good. It's enthralling. I really like the interactions between Popeye and Roy Scheider's character. If I'm saying his name wrong, it is what it is. I like their chemistry a lot. It's kind of like a buddy cop movie, like a buddy detective movie. There's one scene I love on a subway system. That was a lot of fun. It was honestly just kind of funny. I remember giggling like a little schoolgirl at that scene. I just thought it was really funny. But overall, it's gritty. It's dark. It's compelling. It's a fun, are they going to get him? Are the good guys going to get the bad guy kind of story? And is the good guy getting too wrapped up into getting the bad guy? And so for me, this was actually one of the better movies of the month. This is one of them that I would throw into the pile of movies I would definitely strongly recommend checking out. I would not say that for the sequel. Gene Hackman returns. This time he goes to Paris to get the drug dealer that escapes from the first movie. Spoiler alert. I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to spoil the movie and then call the spoiler afterwards. You should have seen this by now. The movie's old. What are you doing? Why do I care if it's a spoiler movie that's 40, 50 years old? I'm doing that thing where, like somebody just finds something out, like... The sky's blue? Somebody else next to him goes, the sky's blue? Yeah, it's blue, you stupid idiot. I'm doing the same thing to you. You haven't seen The French Connection yet? The movie's like 50 years old. Did I just watch it? Well, it doesn't matter. I've seen it. But The French Connection 2, I just didn't. It's one of those sequels that doesn't need to exist. It's a sequel that has strong sequelitis. The ending of the first film leaves a lot to the imagination for the viewer, that it leaves open-ended enough to where it's a satisfying conclusion, but it leaves enough for the viewer to go, what if? Like what happened here? This movie decides to tell you what happens, and it's just not worth it. It's what I was thinking in my head's better. There's a lot of, in my opinion, meandering. I think Gene Hackman's character is not as complex or as deep as he is in the first movie. I think his performance is as good. It definitely feels like the same character. It just feels like a duller version of the same character. And then there's the whole subplot where the drug dealers kidnap him, and that just dragged on forever. So don't recommend French Connection 2. Strongly recommend French Connection 1. It's great. William Friedkin did not do the sequel, by the way. You Might Be the Killer is a horror comedy about a group of camp counselors when they all start dying because there's a killer in the woods. There's a killer at the camp. there's a camp, there's a killer. We've done this before. One camp counselor thinks that, actually, you know what? This might be me. I might be doing this. So he calls his friend who is a horror savant, asking about, what's going on. And a lot of this film is literally a phone conversation, but it does it in a way that it's not boring. It's not, very dull. But I wouldn't say this movie's great either. It definitely leans more on the comedic route, but it does have some good gore effects here and there. I'm not saying gore is what I would consider amazing in horror, but there is like certain subsets of horror that, if you want like a splatter flick, you want good gore. And, in a movie like this, you definitely want there to be some decent gore. My problem is the humor. This movie's not funny, like hardly at all. There is some wit here. There is some nice like stylings here, but overall it just doesn't do enough to really stand out upon the litany of horror comedies out there that are better than this. And as a whole experience, it feels this is going to sound weird to say. It felt unsatisfying because it's very predictable, but it has to be predictable because of the tropes it's playing into. But if you want to play into the tropes and kind of follow along with that level of predictability, I think a good example of this is done in Cabin in the Woods, where this feels like a little bit of a lesser version. It's not bad, but it's definitely not great either. To me, it'd be like right down the middle. It's like a 5 out of 10, a 2.5 out of 5. Maybe check it out. Maybe you'll like it more than I did. We have Seagull. This is a movie about, funny enough, another Dollar Tree pickup. It's a movie about a homeless woman who is potentially seeking revenge. She's dealing with some kind of demon anyway. And a man with his family trying to raise their granddaughter. Yeah, the plot twist in this movie was super obvious within like the first 10 minutes of this movie, and the movie never did anything to subvert my expectations. The movie is very cheap looking, but the performances here are really strong, and there are a lot of aspects of this movie that I really did enjoy. I do wish it subverted my expectations a little bit more than what it actually did, but I did like some of what this movie was doing in terms of the family dynamic. And as the movie kind of unfurls, there are certain aspects that worked really well and there are certain aspects that didn't. As the movie unfurls, the mother and the father character made a lot of sense. It worked really well, but there's side characters that made no sense. Like there's the sister, there's the ex-boyfriend. Those characters and the town they live in, like none of this stuff makes sense. A lot of this stuff just did not make sense when you realize what the plot twist is, to where you're like, okay, I guess everybody's kind of complicit in this. It's like, why though? Overall though, yeah, it was interesting. It's worth a watch probably, but I didn't love it. We got 3:10 to Yuma. This one's actually a rewatch for me. I watched this a bajillion years ago. I think this movie came out in 2007. So I would have watched this probably around like the 2010 to 2012 range when I was in high school, and I've not seen it since. And so I felt like it was fair game because I kind of forgot a lot about this movie, and rewatching it, I kind of remember why I forgot a lot about this movie. This is a Western about Russell Crowe's character, who is an outlaw who is trying to be transported for his crimes. Christian Bale is a farmer who needs the money, so he agrees to help escort Russell Crowe's character. I just wasn't into this one, in all honesty. I think the movie looks good. The production value is obviously there. The performances are obviously there. It's just as an overall story, I just couldn't get into this one. I typically like Westerns too. Maybe I just wasn't in the right mood for this kind of movie, but as I was watching it, I was just like, I'm not connecting with this in any way. I just see my wife go walking by the door, tiptoeing. Our house is very creaky. She knows I'm recording right now, and I just see her walking by going, 3:10 to Yuma. Probably never going to watch it again, in all honesty. I'd give it like a 3 out of 5. It's not bad. I could see a lot of people who love Westerns really being into it. Maybe I should give it another watch on another day. Don't really want to. I feel like I've seen this movie 1,000 times, and I'm not interested in revisiting it, if that makes any sense. It just doesn't do anything to me to stand apart among the sea of Westerns that I find to be, I don't know if I'd say more engaging, but there's just other movies within the genre that does more for me. In my opinion, this is the worst movie I watched all month. It's Sky on Fire. I think this movie's terrible. This is a movie. This is basically what Dwayne The Rock Johnson's Skyscraper is. They're basically the exact same movie. And I would prefer to watch the Rock Johnson one. In all honesty, I think I would recommend the Rock Johnson one over this. I did not care for this. This is a Hong Kong movie about a security guard who is guarding a skyscraper where they are working on stem cell research. There are people who want that stem cell research, and he's got to protect it because it's like top secret, you know? It's what top secret guys do. There's also like a subplot of a girl that has like a sister that has cancer, and it's just, yeah, the whole like taking the skyscraper aspect is like the last 30 minutes of the movie. Everything leading up to it is just the characters are very stereotypical. They're very plot device driven characters. The drama in this is very, I'm going to bring that term back up, very soap opera-y. It's like that level of over the top when it comes to acting, when it comes to writing, when it comes to the music. Oh my God, the music in this movie was so obnoxious. The emotional swells. The action was not handled very well, which is funny because you're seeing cars like smash. They clearly spent some money into the stuff they could smash up, and it's not shot well, it's not choreographed very well. And then on top of that is this movie is incredibly cheap looking. The lighting, the cinematography is all horrific, but then on top of that is it has some laughably bad CGI, which is why I'm giving it not a half a star but a 1 star out of 5, is because some of the CGI is it's really laughably bad. Yeah, overall though, I really didn't like this movie. I've seen it before. I've seen it better in Skyscraper, which I know this came out before, but yeah, don't recommend this one at all. Mondays in the Sun, starring Javier Bardem. This is a film by Fernando Leon de Aranoa. But basically, this is like a little slice of life movie about a group that was, I believe it's in Spain, maybe. Spain. That was laid off from the shipyard when the shipyard closed down, and these people basically have done nothing with their lives since. The thing I really like about this movie is, one, all the performances are really good, and then number two is like it's very realistic. It's a very realistic slice of life. There's not added drama for the sake of added drama. This is just following around 5 guys trying to figure it out, and you learn about their flaws, you learn about their pros. It's a lot of fun, but there's a reason why these guys haven't done anything with themselves, and that becomes very apparent as you watch the film. My thing overall is, while I enjoyed the slice of life, there wasn't a character I really connected with throughout the entire movie. And I'm not saying you can't connect with the characters here. There just wasn't a character. There's not a character here that I really connected with, for me personally. When it comes to these movies that are a slice of life like that, I feel like that is a very important aspect, that you need to find a character you could connect with. I didn't find that here. What I did find, though, however, was great performances. It's fairly well shot, and it is very realistic. It's a very nice piece of realism when it comes into films. I would watch it again. I'm sticking at like a 3 out of 5. Could go up on a second viewing, but I would watch it again. The last little double feature before we talk about the movies that I would actually really strongly recommend, as I drop movies everywhere. The last little double feature, I always look at myself in the camera. I feel like I should look at you, because it probably feels like the smarter thing to do when I'm making a video, like talking and yapping, but I keep looking at myself. Maybe I'm vain, I don't know. Disney's Planes Fire and Rescue, or I guess Planes and then Planes Fire and Rescue. These are the car movies, but they're planes. I mean, that's basically what it is. It feels like Cars Extended EU. Yeah, from the above the world of Cars. It actually says it right on the cover. I've never noticed that. I'm not going to spend much time talking about these because I do plan on doing a screen to console. These movies were picked. I watched them, and then I realized, oh my God, there's video games to these movies? Video games on the Wii U for these movies? So yeah, give me an excuse to actually play a Wii U game on my Wii U, and I'm in for it. So these are going to be screen to consoles. I don't think these are good. I think the first one's better than the second one, because the second one is basically just the first movie again, but worse. Do without that what you will. We'll revisit these in the future. 2 out of 5, 1.5 out of 5. They are just bad versions of Cars. These movies I'm going to talk about here are all movies that I would recommend. These are all movies that, to me, were the best of the month that I watched. These were the movies that really surprised me the most, and are movies that, for one reason or another, I would definitely recommend checking out. So obviously, French Connection, I already mentioned that. So we can just move on from that one. It's really worth checking out. Next, these two movies are not going to be in a video coming up where I talk about my favorite movies I watched in 2025. Actually, this one is. This one's not. This one's just right on the outside of that. I might end up adding it. I don't know. Who knows? I'm talking about stuff I don't even know yet. A Royal Affair, starring Mads Mikkelsen, that one girl. I don't remember her name. And another guy. I also don't know. Alicia Vikander. I believe she was the Ex Machina girl. Anyway, this is a film. It's supposedly based on a true story. I don't know anything about the true story, so I'm not going to comment too much on that. But she is a woman who marries the King of Denmark. And in the mix of that, some aristocrats who want to see some change in Denmark send a doctor who has published a German doctor played by Mads Mikkelsen or Mad Mikkelsen. I've heard different ways to say his name. It's Mads regardless, and he's amazing, and I love him as an actor. They send him because he's a doctor of enlightenment, and they want to see Denmark kind of reach an age of enlightenment. So they send him there. Well, him and the Queen of Denmark end up with a royal affair. That's the movie. This movie was beautifully shot. First off, this movie is gorgeous to look at. The performances here are amazing across the board, with honestly a stellar Mads performance. Mads is really good in this. But what really kind of surprised me was there's a lot of tension in this movie because the stakes are incredibly high. So there's a lot of natural tension, and there's some moments that are a little unsettling, to say the least. It is not a rom-com. It is not a romantic movie by any means, but instead is a very stark period piece that feels realistic, but also has some artistic liberties within its romance sections to feel comparable to what the characters are feeling. And I thought that was really well done, but it never leaves from an unrealistic standpoint. And throughout the movie, like, there's consequences to actions, and it is really interesting to watch. I'm sticking with 3.5 out of 5 on my first viewing with this one. I definitely would watch this again, and I never found myself remotely bored. I'm leaning closer to an 8, and the more I'm talking about it, the more I am leaning toward that 8. So maybe it'll be an 8 on the next watch. But A Royal Affair, pretty good. I enjoyed this one. The more I talk about it, the more I like it. Up next, a Steven Soderbergh. How do you say his last name? I gotta see how it's written out. Steven Soderbergh. Yeah, Soderbergh. I think I'm saying it right. Soderbergh. Anyway, he's a director I like. I watch a lot of his movies. He's really interesting because he's very experimental, does a lot of different stuff. Side Effects, though, is a movie. This is a movie that is a perfect epitome of what this challenge is, which is to go through and watch a bunch of movies that I own that I haven't watched. Because I have owned this exact copy of Side Effects for like a decade now. And now I finally watched it. I can move on with my life. And I feel kind of bad because I really enjoyed this one. This is a movie about Channing Tatum and is it Natalie Portman? No, sorry, Rooney Mara. They are lovers, and she kills him. The entire movie is Jude Law, her psychiatrist, trying to figure out if she's crazy or she's putting on an act. And it is very fun to watch because you do not know. This is one of those movies where it can subvert your expectations so well that you're not sure what's actually happening here. And you're not sure, maybe this doctor is creating malpractice here. You don't know. And it's very engaging. It's a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it. It kept me guessing, kept me on the edge of my seat. Side Effects. Moving on, Casa de Mi Padre. This is the biggest surprise, I think, of the entire 31 for 31 because I kind of went into this with little to no expectations. This is a Will Ferrell movie that's entirely in Spanish, that he plays the younger brother to a wealthy farm rancher whose older brother is a drug dealer, and he brings home his new woman. All while there's a big drug cartel that is potentially going to go to war with his brother. Obviously, the gag is a Will Ferrell movie that's entirely in Spanish. Like, that's the entire gag. That's the entire gimmick to this movie. But what I was not expecting was this is basically Spanish Black Dynamite. If you've seen Black Dynamite is a parody of black exploitation films. This is a parody of Spanish novellas or telenovelas, and it is really, really funny. In all honesty, I was cracking up through this entire movie. They use like stuffed animals for cougars. They go Now it's not quite as I feel like this movie is a lot more cheesy with its approach to its parody as opposed to Black Dynamite, which is, I think, just saying that out loud is kind of crazy to say, but it is. It's a lot more cheesier. What was that squeak? I don't know if I could do that again. It's a lot cheesier on that aspect. And for those reasons, I love this. I thought this was great. I really thought this was a lot of fun. Very funny, very over the top. I 100% will be watching this again. I super recommend this. And in terms of like genre parodies, this is a fantastic parody film that I cannot recommend enough. I think having Will Ferrell in that role just kind of makes it all a little bit funnier. Mute Witness. This is a movie that my buddy Dylan raved about that made me interested in watching it. And then I found it at a flea market for 50 cents on DVD. And now I'm definitely going to be upgrading to the Arrow video release because this was great. This is a movie about a film crew working on a film in Russia using Russian mafiosos. And the special effects artist is a mute who witnesses a murder. And the entire movie, she's trying to escape the corrupt Russian police force, basically escape these murderers. And what I really liked about this movie was this movie is like white knuckle intense. It's a very intense film, and you don't know if she's gonna make it because other than her two American friends, you do not know who is a good guy or a bad guy because of the level of corruption that's in Russia. You do not know who is a good guy or a bad guy, and that plays very well into the paranoia of this film of who to and who not to trust. And for those reasons, this is just a huge recommendation. The whole mute aspect isn't really, I mean, it's, yeah, she's mute, but it really doesn't do a whole lot, I don't think, at least in my opinion. God, I've been yapping for like an hour and 20 minutes almost. I'm at the climax of the Swan Swan Princess. But yeah, so Mute Witness is fantastic. This movie's great. I'll talk about it more in another video I'm going to do here in a little bit, but for right now, this one is just utterly fantastic. Cannot recommend Mute Witness enough. Fantastic stuff. Speaking of fantastic, Christine. This is a movie that I've wanted to watch for a long time. I didn't realize it was a John Carpenter movie until I watched it. This is a movie I've wanted to watch for quite some time. I picked this up at a yard sale, I know, for like next to nothing. And I finally watched it, and yeah, this is another one I feel like I've been kicking myself for waiting so long to watch because I loved every second of this. This was one of my favorites I watched all month. It is a killer car movie that is nowhere near as corny as that premise sounds. It's actually done very, very well. The car is actually a threat, and it kills in very unique and fun ways. I love the scene where it like crushes itself in to go down an alley to crush the one kid. That was fantastic. That was really cool. I like the kind of psychological trauma that comes with this car as well to the person who owns the car. Like, I thought that whole aspect was really well done. Just fantastic, super fun stuff. Really well done. John Carpenter is a master for reasons, and to me personally, this is one of my favorites from him now. I genuinely will watch that again next year for Halloween, probably, maybe, we'll see. I save, in my opinion, the best for last. This was my favorite film of the entire month. This was also, funny enough, out of the entire pile, was the movie that I was the most interested in seeing. It was the one I had the biggest anticipation for. And it's a movie that I've wanted to watch pretty much since it came out. I remember seeing the trailer to this and being like, I want to see that. That is White God. This movie is phenomenal. I really, really love this one. This is a movie about a girl who goes to stay with her father over the summer. Her father and her mother have a pretty nasty divorce and not a great relationship. So she goes to live with him. She brings her dog. Well, the dad does not want to pay the flat fees for the dog, so they have to give it up. Well, they just kind of dump this poor dude out on the middle of a road. From here on out, the rest of the movie is the girl trying to get the dog, trying to basically find the dog again, and the dog finding his own way. Unfortunately for the dog, it falls into some pretty bad hands. It ends up getting captured, turned into a dog fighting dog. They turn him into a dog fighting dog, and that leads to a dog revolution turning against its owners. Then a really wild revenge plot that I was not anticipating, and it is awesome. First off, this movie uses an insane amount of dogs at one go. It's very impressive. It's also a little concerning because it's like, okay, these dogs get hurt any? As a whole, very cool. The main conflict between the father and the daughter is very well done. You really do feel for the girl as the film goes on, and that really comes to a head at the conclusion of the film that I thought was great. I thought the climax of this movie was fantastic. Every arc from the, her going to live with her dad, having the dog getting, having to give up the dog, the search for the dog, and the dog's own journey into the revenge plot. Every one of these was just enthralling from the moment it started to the moment it ended. I was wrapped up in this story in a nice little blanket that was a little stinky, but also was a little hard to stomach in some moments. There's some moments that's like, Jesus, there's some, if you don't like seeing dogs get hurt, this is not one for you. But as a whole, this movie is just fantastic. It's very well done. The performances are great. A great young performance by whoever the child actor is. If I would spend more than 5 seconds, I'd look it up, but you need to find a better YouTuber for that. But in terms as a whole, this film looks great. It's edited really well. There's zero fat on this story whatsoever. You feel for every character, and then that back end revenge story is really wild. Like, conceptually, to how it's done, to what you see on screen, pretty wild stuff. It's a lot of fun, kind of. But overall, this was my favorite movie I watched all month, and I know I started this off by saying that I wasn't feeling 31 for 31 this year. I just wasn't. I was just kind of just like, meh, I don't really want to make this video. I didn't really want to watch these movies very much. But those last handful of movies I talked about, mixed in with some of the ones I was a little bit more lukewarm to, kind of makes doing something like this worthwhile, at least for me, where I can watch some movies that are now going to be classics to me, and movies that I really hope I could turn you on to if you watch this video. Maybe a movie you haven't heard, maybe a movie you've kind of been interested in, then I said something that piqued your interest, and then you watch it and really like it. That's all I care about. I hope if you sat through this, I hope you found a movie that you could find enjoyable. I just finished The Swan Princess. Goodbye, everybody.